Hey guys, Brown Bear here with a laser guided bomb tutorial using the targeting pod today. And today we're going to be using GBU12 bombs in the A-18C Hornet in DCS World. So there's a couple of things that I just want to point out first that you need to be familiar with in order to kind of get this working. And they are on the screen now, numbered 1 to 4. So let's start with number 1, which is in the center of the screen here. AP, which is obviously autopilot, for those of you that don't know, but obviously everyone's going to know pretty much everything that's circled here on the screen, but just for argument's sake, AP, why we circled that? So very useful tool to turn on the barometric altitude hold when you're autopilot, when you're doing a laser guided bomb run, if it's new to you especially. Obviously, you can use it initially when you're setting up, when you're scanning the area for targets, and just makes things a little bit easier because you're not looking at, out the window or through the hood. Essentially, you're looking down at the MFDs and away from everything. So your situational awareness just becomes very impaired. So very useful tool to kind of help you get things set up. So just simply click on that AP button and press BALT, barometric altitude hold, and that will enable the aircraft to just remain steady on that altitude that you've set. Now, very important to note that for laser guided bomb runs, for a number of reasons, but mainly to stay out of firing range of air defenses, such as kind of smaller SAMs, stingers, stuff like that, and flak and anti-aircraft fire in general. You want to stay around 20,000 feet or above, and you want to be moving at a speed of 400 knots minimum. Okay, just to help give that bomb a bit of extra momentum as well. Moving on to point 2, on the left hand side there, you'll see I have A/G highlighted, which is obviously air to ground mode, and then the master arm switch directly below that you'll see is in the arm state. So obviously to release bombs, or any weapons for that matter, in air to ground weapons, you want to be in the respective air to ground mode, and your master arm switch would need to be enabled or in the arm position. Moving on to the right hand side of the screen there, onto the right MFD, you'll see the button I have circled with number 3. Basically that's the button you would use to kind of select where you want to go from here on, and from here on in, you'll see in the video a little bit later on, I'll press this button and it will actually bring me to another page, allowing me to select the FLIR or targeting pod. Moving down onto point 4, this is something that I only discovered recently enough, but nevertheless it's probably the most useful thing that I've learned using for laser guided bombs, is the waypoint designate button on the lower MFD there, or MCPD. But basically what this does is, if you have trouble finding targets, so generally what you're going to do in mission editor or in any mission, a waypoint would be designated wherever your target is going to be. That is where you want your targeting pod looking. But obviously when you're flying at 20,000 feet at night time over clouds, it's very hard to spot tanks that are 20 miles away. So this helps with that. So obviously it will help if you press that waypoint designate button there, that's circled point number 4. That will automatically slew your targeting pod to that particular waypoint, obviously being, in this example that we're talking about here, the target waypoint. And it just makes things very easy. Straight away your targeting pod is pointing in the right direction, in general vicinity wise, and from there you can kind of zoom in and you can start selecting targets. So here we are in the jet, on our way to waypoint 1, which is the target waypoint. For the purpose of this tutorial, I didn't use the waypoint designate button. So here I am setting my barometric altitude hold autopilot, make things a bit easier for me. I'm going to press the 82LG, which is Mark 82 laser guided bomb button, to select it, and we're going to set it up. So mode switch, we're going to start with first. You have a number of modes, but automatic is generally what you're going to use. Fuse type here, you have instant or delay. Instant is what we're using in this case, and then the code, obviously 1688. So press code on the left MFD, press code on the UFC, and then input 1688, press enter, and that gives that bomb that code 1688. The reason you do that is the default laser code on the targeting pod is set to 1688. So on right MFD now you'll see I pressing that button there and it brings the selection screen. I select FLIR. On the bottom right there I'm turning on my laser target designator, and you want to make sure the FLIR pod is on. I'm zooming in, trying to find my targets, and then press SCS right, so sensor control switch right on the stick, which you'll see the diamond on the top right hand side of the MFD, which makes that MFD the sensor of interest, or SOI or SOI. So if we just take a second to look at the right MFD here on the screen, which is 9 times out of 10 going to be the one you're using the most once you get everything set up with your laser guided bombs. We take a look at the bottom left here, number 1. So this button refers to CCD or FLIR, and basically these are just two camera types, or not camera types, I suppose, yeah, lens types really, referring to the targeting pod. So CCD is 6 millimeters, and FLIR is 11.5 millimeters. So it just gives you kind of a different view really. So you can switch between those. The main difference being when FLIR is selected, you'll see obviously FLIR on the actual MFD beside the bottom left button there, but you'll also have another option on the button beside the brightness knob there on the bottom left of the MFD, which you can select white, so it'll say WHT or BLK, and when you press the button it'll change between the two, and basically what that means is white hot or black hot. And basically what that means is it's just thermal imaging, and it'll just make the whatever target you're looking at, it'll show up against the different backgrounds, you know, white or black, just for easier viewing rather. If we move on to number 2 now, on the top left of the MFD, you'll see OPR, and basically OPR is just the standard operational, but below that you'll see ATRK, and ATRK stands for area track, and what that means is basically that's the mode where the MFD is currently in, and what that means is it's currently tracking that particular area. So the targeting pod is fixed on that area and will slew as the jet moves to that fixed point rather. You get into that mode by default by pressing, once you make the right MFD the SOI or sensor of interest, by pressing the SCS or sensor control switch right on the stick. You can press that switch again, so sensor control switch or SCS right again, and that will activate area track mode. If you press it again a third time, it will activate PTRK, which is point track, and point track is what you would use for a moving target. So if you want to drop a laser guided bomb on a tank, for example, you would need to be in point track mode. And then if you press it another time, using this example here, it will remove PTRK and ATRK, and all you'll see there is OPR, which is basically just your standard view. Number 3, that says trigger, TRIG, that stands for trigger, and basically what that means is if you want to fire the laser manually, just above the crosshairs there, you'll see it later on in the video, I think it says L arm, but basically if you want to fire the laser manually yourself, for whatever reason, you would simply press this trigger switch on the MFD. That will box that selection, and then your second detent trigger, or the second detent on your trigger on your stick, will act as the laser designator. So in order to fire that laser designator, you need to press and hold the trigger into the second detent. Pressing and holding the trigger into the second detent without trigger boxed on the right MFD will not do anything. The laser is set to fire automatically after a certain time has elapsed, and we'll see that a bit later on. Number 4 there, you'll see UFC and the code beside it saying 1688, as I referred to earlier on in the initial setup there. That is the default code for the targeting pod, and that's the default laser code. You can change that by pressing on the UFC button there, number 4 there, and then obviously bringing your attention to the center console UFC and inputting whatever code you want and pressing enter, and that will change that code to whatever code you want to use. And then obviously the very last one is nothing fancy, but it's quite useful, is the DCL button, and that stands for declutter. So obviously if there's too much information or too much writing on the screen and you're finding it hard to find targets, or you just basically want a clearer view of things, press this button and it will remove a lot of that said data. Very important to note, just while we have a bit of time here, the main buttons on the stick you're going to want to use, so make sure you get these set up in the control settings, is sensor control switch right to select that MFD and make it the sensor of interest, or SOI as we said, and that's denoted by the diamond on the top right of the MFD. Obviously you're going to press that same switch again, sensor control switch right again, or SCS right, to switch between your area tracks and your point tracks. And the final one is going to be the target designator button. Basically that's what you're going to move the targeting pod around with, the view, and that's how you're going to find your target essentially. So up, down, left, right. So target designator, up, down, left, right, and depress. I want to make sure you have them assigned to something in the controls. And the depress is very important because it's obviously the last step we're going to use here, and you'll see it later on in the video. By depressing target designator switch, that basically turns the target. So for example, if you take what we see in the screen here, that will turn that target on the screen, or that comms tower on the screen, into a target. So it's the difference between having a target and not having a target. Okay, so moving on, you can see I'm just slewing that target, and then there's the target designator depress to make that a target, and that's denoted by the diamond you see on the HUD now. So if we just take a moment to look at the symbology on the HUD first of all, and then we'll bring our attention down to the left MFD. Number one here, L arm, which stands for laser arm. So that simply just means that the laser designator is ready and armed. And on the right console beside your right arm, you'll see LTDR, and that stands for laser designator, and that switch is set to arm, and that's basically what that means. Very important to note actually, when you use auto laser firing, which is what we're using at the moment, because on the right MFD TRIG trigger button is not boxed, the laser designator switch will automatically go back into the safe position once you once the bombs have been released, once the laser has fired, and once the bombs have detonated. That laser designator switch will reset itself into the safe position. So if you're very important to know, if you're turning back for a second run or a third run or whatever the case may be, make sure you rearm the laser designator. Point 2 on the very bottom of the HUD there is the diamond symbol you see, and that basically just means, as I said earlier on, that we have designated a target, and that's symbolized by the diamond. Number 3, so you have FLIR, auto, and release time. And basically, obviously, FLIR is the view mode we're currently in on the right MFD. Auto is our bomb release mode, is currently set to auto, and as I said earlier on, there's a number of modes, but auto is what you're going to be using 99.9% of the time. And then you see below that our release time in seconds. When we continue onto the target, obviously that timer is going to count down. What will happen is, you'll see later on, so if you see the velocity vector on the horizon line there, but just below laser arm, what will happen is we need to align our velocity vector, center it over that vertical line coming straight down the center of the HUD. And what will happen then is we'll see a flat or horizontal line come straight down from the top of the HUD down the center. And what we want to do, as soon as we see that line, it'll generally appear around the 3 to 4 second time to release mark. We want to press and hold the weapon release button, and once it passes through the velocity vector and we have the weapon release button held, the bombs will release automatically, and then you can release the weapon release button. Moving down to point 4, TGT, so target, and that is, and 13.7 is basically self-explanatory, but that is our distance to target in nautical miles. So we're currently 13.7 nautical miles away from our designated target that we see on the right MFD, which in this case is the comms tower. Moving our attention down to the left MFD, you'll see point 5, and you'll see obviously that's Mark 82 laser guided bomb that is boxed on the wing there, and below that you'll see the code 1688, and that basically just represents that is the bomb we are firing next, and 1688 is the laser code that bomb is using. Below that you'll see a number of things. It just basically kind of an overview of the kind of settings we've selected, and very handy just to reference very quickly. But yeah, it just denotes the kind of the bomb mode or bomb release mode and auto. The quantity, you can see that's something new we haven't covered there. So on the right hand side of that, CTY and MULTI, so quantity and multiples. That basically denotes the quantities of bomb we're dropping and in what multiples. So for this example, it's set to we're dropping one bomb and one bomb only. Okay, so let's continue on to target. I'm just getting the jet lined up, or the velocity vector rather, with the vertical line there. You can see our release timer is counting down and our distance to target. Sorry about my phone gone off there. You can see obviously trigger is not boxed, as I said early on, so this is an automatic firing laser. We're not firing the laser ourselves. We have the code 1688. We've set that all up, ready to go. Okay, so right now you can see the horizontal line. Press and hold the weapon release. Bomb is gone. Let go of weapon release. And let's go have a look now. So let's watch the bomb. We'll see it change course dramatically when the laser starts firing. As I said, the laser will start firing automatically. There we go. She's nose down, pitched straight down there, so that means the laser's firing. She's tracking the target. And looks like we're going to miss. Yep, boom. Okay, so let's take a moment to establish why we may have missed. So we did everything right. We set up the bombs properly, the quantity, the code, the fuse type, which is instant fuse. We selected the right target. You know, we all know laser guided bombs are very accurate. Targeting pod is amazing. But basically, if we bring our attention to obviously the right MFD there, we'll see that the crosshair in the box there is kind of, you know, a third of the way up that comms tower, and a little bit, if you were to look at it, you know, from a certain point, I suppose at the point that we're looking at right now, really, if you were to draw a line straight through that, that's pointing, you could say, maybe 25-30 meters past the comms tower, which is where the bomb hit, roughly speaking. And laser guided bombs, you know, they're accurate to a few meters, so they are very, very accurate. But that's the only reason I can come up with why we missed. I mean, if someone else knows a more, you know, specific reason or has more knowledge on the subject, please feel free to drop a comment in and educate us all. But this doesn't happen to me all the time. But I knew this was going to happen, and this was I wanted to show this, that it's not all gravy. You're not going to hit the target every single time, and yeah, just be mindful of that. It's not a guaranteed kill. Okay, so let's get a bit of distance between us and the target. One thing I forgot to mention is very important for moving between targets. You deselect the target with the nose wheel steering button, or its other secondary function within the air is target undesignate. Very important. Okay, so we're set up again, on our way to the target. You can see I have the comms there, tower selected there, and for this example I just want to show you the fact that you do not need to be in area track or point track mode, denoted by ATRK or PTRK on the top left of the MFD there, and it'll usually say it's just below OPR there on the top left. So right here I'm just in the standard view mode. I don't have, as I said, area track or point track selected. I have already designated the comms tower as a target. You'll see symbolized by the diamond. Here we are with weapon release, and we will see we get an actual confirmed kill. So what I've done here is I've just moved the target designation point a couple of meters behind or in front of, of the target. You'll see the laser firing on the MFD there on top right, LTD stroke or, and it's flashing. That means the laser is firing. And you'll see on the, it says TTI 3, 2, 1. That means time to impact. Slight delay there, and there we go. Comms tower destroyed there. But yeah, coming back to my original point, I just compensated for the kind of the miss that we had earlier on by a few meters in front of the target. And you're going to need to do this from time to time. I mean, the targeting pod is great, but I find it and this could just be I'm not sure if this is a real life thing, so maybe someone can step in that's an ex-fighter pilot or a real fighter pilot or that has knowledge of this. I believe that self-lasing is not as accurate as somebody lasing a target for you. So for example, a Hummer down on the ground, you know, with a team of infantry actually lasing a target for you, I believe that is much more accurate because they're actually pointing a laser at a target and it's bouncing off that target, and they're obviously much closer than we would be initially setting that target up. So for the next one here, I want to show you another target here, which is a hardened bunker, and we're going to drop 2 bombs at the same time, and I'll show you the setup for that in a second. Here we are here, and just see me selecting it, and you can see the crosshair moving there. A lot of people complain that they can't move the target designator while they're in a certain track mode, and basically that's just down to just simply you need to depress the target designate button again to kind of move away from a lock to the crosshair in the center there of the larger crosshair, and it'll allow you to move that around. So if you want to set up a secondary target, for example, or something has moved and you've changed your mind, it will allow you to quickly move to that target. Matt Wagner from Eagle Dynamics actually has a great video on that, on the different modes and how you move between those. Okay, so here we are en route to the target. I have selected the target. For some reason having great difficulty turning on my barometric altitude hold. I've also noticed this being a major bug in DCS World. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I have no idea why. Maybe someone can explain to me why that would be. So I'm too close, I'm just resetting, moving away. Okay, so just continuing to move away, and I'm going to take the time to set up everything here now in a second for the remaining 2 bombs. So the first thing I'm going to do is select the quantity on multiples like I referred to earlier on, and that's done by selecting UFC on the right hand side of the left MFD, bringing your attention to the center UFC console, selecting quantity, typing in that quantity, in this case 2, pressing enter, and then the same for the multiples. So I want to drop 2 bombs at the same time in multiples of 2. You'll see me setting up the code again, which we covered earlier on in the video. And now just turning back into the target. Okay, so just moving in on the target, I'm zooming in there on the flare pod or targeting pod, and just trying to designate it there. Something I do here is for the purpose of the tutorial, because it would work otherwise, is if you remember we've set an electronic fuse to instant for a hardened bunker. That is not what you want to do, and you obviously, because you need the bombs to penetrate that bunker, so in other words, you would, in order to do that, you would set a delay timer. So you'd hit the DLY button when you set up your fuse, and you put in the delay time in seconds on the UFC console, and that will allow time. So if you put in 3 seconds, here we go, we're going to fire here, weapon released, 2 bombs have gone same time, and en route to the target. But yeah, coming back to what I was saying around the delay, that will, the number of seconds you put in will allow obviously a delay for those bombs to penetrate that hardened bunker and then obviously detonate underneath, within, from within the bunker. and that's how you take out a hardened target or a bunker in this case. You can see there the laser is firing, and let's have a quick look at the bombs. You'll see as soon as they hit the tower on the comms tower, they detonate, which is not what we want. So we wanted them to penetrate the bunker, and obviously, as you can see, the target designation point is well beyond the bunker, like we saw when we launched the first set of bombs at the comms tower, and that would have resulted in a miss even if we did set a delay. So just bear in mind, once again, you do need to compensate for that. One very quick thing just to point out, as I mentioned earlier on, see the LTDR is set to safe, so it's automatically done this after we fired the 2 laser guided bombs. So just a reminder once again to reset this to ARM if you are doing another run. So look guys, I'll close it there. I hope everyone enjoyed the video. I hope it was informative, and I hope it covered off any grey areas or areas that you didn't know. If you have any requests or ideas for videos, please do leave a comment as to what you want to see. You can do that by obviously putting a comment in the comments box of this video, or you can join my Discord channel. Link to my Discord is in the description. There's a video requests and ideas text channel, which you can obviously leave your ideas there, and I'll be happy to cover off whatever you feel like you want to throw at me, within reason obviously. But look, a random shout out to a new subscriber, Radio Doug Radio. Thank you very much for subscribing and showing your support to the channel. I really do appreciate it. Just something I just want to point out very quickly is I recently reached 50 subscribers. Very happy that I have 50 subscribers, so thank you to all of my faithful subscribers. I really do appreciate it, and hopefully with a bit more effort and a bit more time, I'll grow this channel, you know, with the help of everyone else in the community out there, to well past. Obviously my goal is to reach 100, and then after that to reach obviously 1,000. They're the 2 big milestones in YouTube, having your own channel, as anyone with their own channel will be aware, and they're absolutely huge hurdles. So look, if you want to support the channel and you like the content you see and you want to see more of it, please hit the like button now, please subscribe right now, show your support, and I'll see you again in the next one. Take care guys, bye bye.